This coin was almost overlooked, almost tossed aside as nothing more than an ordinary penny. But when one sharp-eyed collector spotted a tiny, nearly invisible flaw, his life changed forever. That same coin, a simple 1962 D Lincoln penny, ended up being valued at nearly $1.9 million. Think about that for a second. A single penny, worth less than a stick of gum, transformed into a fortune that most people only dream about. But here's the part that makes it even more shocking. Thousands, maybe even millions of these coins were produced, and yet only a handful contain the hidden mistakes that make them so unbelievably valuable. The story begins in Denver, 1962. The U.S. Mint was running full speed, striking billions of Lincoln Memorial cents to keep up with America's booming economy. But in that rush, errors slipped through the cracks. A mismatch die here. A weak strike there. Slight variations that most eyes would never notice. But to coin experts, those tiny imperfections are pure gold. It carries one of the most mysterious minting anomalies ever recorded. Some examples show doubled lettering on Liberty or In God We Trust. Others reveal a bizarre, misplaced mint mark, the little d stamped slightly off-center, pressed twice, or even showing traces of another mark beneath it. Errors so small that millions of people handled these pennies daily without ever realizing what they were holding. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. 1 penny, nearly flawless, showing sharp detail and the rare doubling, appeared at auction. Collectors gasped. Dealers leaned in closer. And when the final hammer dropped, the price had soared into the millions. A coin born from an everyday mistake had become a life-changing treasure. But here's the part most people miss. The difference between a penny worth $1 million and one worth just a cent often comes down to a single overlooked detail. A faint doubling of a letter. The angle of a mint mark. A subtle discoloration caused by how the coin was struck. Imagine this. A man digging through his late father's coin jar stumbles upon a stack of 1962 D pennies. He almost spends them at the grocery store. But something about one coin catches his eye. The D mint mark looks odd. Faintly doubled. Tilted ever so slightly. Curious, he takes it to a dealer. The dealer's eyes widen. His hands begin to shake. This isn't just a penny, this is a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors rushed. Dealers scrambled. That single coin, once destined for pocket change, was suddenly valued at more than $1.9 million. But how many others are still out there, hiding in drawers, jars, and dusty collections across America? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The U.S. Mint doesn't announce errors. They don't admit when mistakes slip through. It's up to collectors to find them. And the 1962 D penny is proof that the smallest slip of the die can create unimaginable wealth for the person lucky enough to spot it. One collector described holding his discovery as feeling like lightning struck my hands. Another said he couldn't sleep for days, afraid he'd wake up and the coin would vanish, like a dream. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. Many of these rare 1962 D pennies aren't sitting in the hands of collectors yet. They're still circulating, still buried in old jars, still waiting to be found. Some may be sitting in antique stores, pawn shops, or even hiding in plain sight in your spare change, and the truth is, most people never even check the mint mark. The D on a true treasure coin may look doubled, slightly misaligned, or faintly overstruck. The tiniest tilt can mean the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Second, look closely at the lettering on the obverse, Liberty and In God We Trust. Many rare 1962 D pennies show signs of doubling, making the letters appear thicker or slightly shadowed. Finally, condition matters. A well-preserved coin with sharp detail skyrockets in value compared to one worn from circulation. Even if your penny looks ordinary, you could still be holding a hidden rarity. Because not all valuable 1962 D pennies are doubled dies or mint mark errors. Some were struck on the wrong metal planchets, experimental blanks intended for other coins. Those rare mistakes have sold for hundreds of thousands, even pushing into million-dollar territory. How many times have you let a 1962 D penny slip through your fingers, never knowing what you might be holding? Collectors were shocked when one coin sold for nearly $2 million. But they weren't just shocked at the price, they were shocked at the realization that anyone, absolutely anyone, could stumble across one. Because history has shown again and again, the greatest treasures aren't locked in museums. They're hiding in plain sight. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these rare 1962 D pennies. And every time one surfaces, the value climbs even higher. Supply is limited. Demand is exploding. And the world is watching. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that old coin jar, when you glance at the pennies rattling around your drawer, remember this story. Look closely. Check carefully. Because fortune doesn't always come in gold bars or lottery tickets. Sometimes, it comes in the form of a single, forgotten penny, Lincoln Memorial design. D mint mark from Denver. Doubling on the letters or a misplaced mint mark. Sharp detail, high grade. Or even a coin struck on the wrong planchet. 1 penny in a billion, but if it's in your hands, it could change your life forever, and so I'll leave you with this thought. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. That's right, a simple 2020 penny, the kind you've probably held dozens of times in your own hands, became the centerpiece of a life-changing discovery. And the most astonishing part? It carries a tiny mark, almost invisible to most people, that made it worth not just hundreds, not just thousands, but up to $1.7 million. But how could a coin minted just a few years ago, a coin so modern, be hiding such an extraordinary secret? The answer lies in a combination of minting errors, timing, and one collector's unbelievable stroke of luck. Back in 2020, the Denver Mint was striking billions of pennies with Abraham Lincoln's face. Most of them looked identical, rolling off the presses into circulation by the truckload. But hidden within that sea of copper-plated zinc were mistakes. Subtle flaws that no one expected, and that almost no one spotted, until now. A man in Colorado bought his morning coffee, got a handful of change, and nearly tossed the pennies into a tip jar. Something about one coin caught his eye: a shimmer, a strange texture. He slipped it into his pocket instead. Later, under a desk lamp, he saw what most people would have ignored: a microscopic doubling on the date, and a faint, misplaced detail on Lincoln's eye. That penny turned out to be worth a staggering fortune, but here's the chilling part: what he held wasn't just a minor error. It was one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever documented, a 2020 D mint mark penny with a striking flaw that experts said should not exist. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to verify it. And when it finally reached auction, the bids climbed at lightning speed. From $10,000 to $50,000, then to $100,000, the room buzzed with disbelief. But the hammer didn't fall until the number reached into the millions. That single penny, once destined for a cash register, had become a $1.7 million miracle. The answer traces back to the chaos of that year. With the world distracted, mints were pushing coins out faster than usual. Small inconsistencies, overlooked adjustments, and striking errors slipped through the cracks. Most were destroyed. But a handful survived, coins that looked normal at first glance, yet carried minting secrets invisible to the average eye. And here's where it gets even stranger. Several 2020 D pennies have since surfaced with different types of errors, some with doubled dies, others with missing elements, even a few with misaligned strikes that make Lincoln's profile look warped and ghostly. Each one has drawn gasps from experts. Each one has commanded incredible prices at auction, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The more collectors hunted, the more whispers emerged. People digging through their change jars, searching bankrolls, reporting oddities. A man in Texas found one while sorting through his kid's piggy bank. Another collector in Ohio spotted his while counting coins for laundry. Stories poured in of ordinary people turning pocket change into life-changing paydays. The Denver minted 2020 pennies, with the D mint mark, seemed to hold the greatest mysteries. The tiniest details. A misplaced mint mark. A doubled date. A faint die crack running across Lincoln's shoulder like a lightning bolt. Even a subtle difference in luster, the shine that separates a circulation coin from a mint state rarity. Most people never see it. They glance at their pennies, shrug, and spend them without a second thought. But trained eyes, patient hands, and a good magnifying glass can transform pocket change into treasure. And the truth is, the 2020 D penny isn't just a fluke. It's part of a hidden pattern: modern coins with overlooked errors skyrocketing in value. 10 years ago, few would have believed a coin from 2020 could sell for over $1 million. Now, it's reality. And the market is hungrier than ever. One dealer even called it the perfect storm, a rare modern error discovered in an era when collectors are desperate for new treasures. That demand is what drives the price into the stratosphere. And that's why ordinary Americans, the ones who check their pockets and their jars at night, are becoming millionaires overnight. Think about it. How many times have you handled a 2020 penny without even glancing at the mint mark? How many times have you let one slip through your fingers, not knowing it might be worth more than your car, more than your house, more than some people make in a lifetime? The suspense grows heavier when you realize that thousands of these coins are still out there. Some resting quietly in dresser drawers. Some buried in coin jars. Some rattling at the bottom of purses, waiting for someone to notice the truth. 2020. Look for the small D under the year, marking it as minted in Denver. Then, grab a magnifying glass. Inspect Lincoln's face carefully. Pay close attention to his eye, his lips, and the lines of his jacket. Many errors show as doubling, two outlines where there should only be one. Others appear as cracks or extra metal lines across the coin's surface. Next, study the mint mark itself. Is it perfectly placed, or is it slightly off? Some of the rarest million-dollar pennies show a faintly doubled D, or a misaligned strike that gives the mark an odd tilt. Finally, examine the coin's condition. A pristine mint-state penny can multiply the value dramatically. Even a common coin becomes extraordinary when preserved in near-perfect condition. Combine that with an error, and you have a piece that can command life-changing money. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closer. Search deeper. Because one overlooked detail could be the difference between ordinary change and an extraordinary fortune. The next million-dollar discovery might not come from a vault or a collector's showcase. It might come from your pocket, your wallet, your nightstand. The treasure is hiding in plain sight. The 2020 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.7 million is real proof that miracles don't always glitter in gold or shine in silver. Sometimes, they're copper-plated, stamped with Lincoln's face, and passed from hand to unsuspecting hand until destiny places them in yours. A simple penny. A 2014 Denver minted Lincoln cent face value, just 1 cent. But because of one tiny mistake, it sold for more than $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. And the entire coin world was left asking one haunting question, because right now, one of them could be sitting in your pocket. Changed. You see, the year 2014 seemed ordinary for U.S. coinage. Millions upon millions of Lincoln Memorial cents rolled out of the Denver Mint. Shiny, copper-plated zinc coins that no one gave a second thought to. They jingled in purses, they slid across counters, they were dropped in vending machines without hesitation. But hidden among them was a mistake so small, so invisible to the average eye, that only the most observant collectors even noticed, and that mistake turned one penny into a treasure worth up to $1.80 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because the discovery didn't come from a seasoned dealer, or a wealthy collector with magnifying glasses and expensive equipment. No. The first known example was found by an everyday person, someone who almost spent it at a gas station. They tossed their pocket change onto the counter, but something about the coin caught the light differently. A subtle doubling in the lettering. A faint misalignment that shouldn't have been there. That person held on to it. And weeks later, when it reached the auction block, the crowd gasped. A misstrike caused by worn dies in the Denver Mint? All signs pointed to a coin that should never have left the factory floor. Yet somehow, it did. And because of that, it became one of the most sought-after modern pennies in existence. Dealers rushed to verify it. Bids flew higher and higher. And when the hammer finally dropped, this 1 cent coin had sold for a life-changing sum, nearly $1.8 million. But here's the chilling part: if just one coin slipped through with this kind of mistake, then there could be more. And every day, someone might be unknowingly spending them on coffee, parking meters, or loose change at the bottom of a drawer. Imagine throwing away $1 million disguised as a penny. Collectors were electrified. People began searching their change like never before. Stories poured in of hopeful finds: coins with odd doubling, coins struck slightly off-center, coins that just didn't look right. Some were dismissed as ordinary. But a handful, a precious handful, have shocked experts. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On the 2014 D Mint Mark penny, some examples show strong doubling in the date, especially on the 2 and the 0. Others display faint but unmistakable doubling in the word liberty. A few are misstruck, showing off-center designs where part of Lincoln's portrait seems pushed toward the rim. These are the markers. The secrets. The differences between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $1 million, and here's where it gets even stranger. 2014 was also the year that Lincoln pennies started showing subtle shifts in strike pressure, as the mint's machinery wore down from years of high output. Experts believe that a few coins slipped through with dramatic doubling, while others were struck on the wrong type of blank planchet entirely. That means some 2014 D pennies are not just errors, they're hybrids. Oddities. Freak accidents of American coinage history. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector found a 2014 D penny with doubling so strong it looked like a shadow was cast behind every number in the date. That coin went on to fetch 6 figures at auction because collectors knew what it meant. If one exists, more might exist. And the hunt was on, but what happened next sent shockwaves through the community for decades. The big money in coins had always been in older dates: 1909 VDBs, 1955 doubled dies, 1943 copper cents. But suddenly, this modern coin, less than a decade old, had joined their ranks. It proved that million-dollar treasures aren't just hiding in dusty collections or ancient vaults. They're out there right now, in pocket change, in coffee cans, in jars sitting on kitchen counters, and this revelation changed everything, because if a 2014 D penny, something so ordinary, so recent, could carry $1 million mistake, then what about the coins jingling in your pocket this very second? Collectors were no longer just searching old wheat pennies. They were hunting modern coins with renewed obsession. Every 2014 D cent became a mystery, a puzzle, a ticket to possible fortune. But here's the truth that most people miss. The difference between spending a penny and cashing in $1 million comes down to one thing: paying attention. Looking closer. Noticing the doubling, the misstrike, the faint differences in lettering that separate treasure from trash. First, flip the coin under good lighting. Look carefully at the date. On the rare doubled die, the 2014 will show a shadow doubling effect, most visible on the 2 and the 0. Next, check the word Liberty. Doubling there is another strong sign. Finally, inspect the mint mark D. On some examples, it appears slightly distorted or misplaced, evidence of a minting anomaly. Don't ignore off-center strikes either. If Lincoln's portrait seems shifted or the rim looks unusually thick on one side, you may be holding a valuable error, and remember, condition is king. The sharper the coin, the higher the value. A rare 2014 D penny in pristine, uncirculated condition could fetch staggering sums. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are checking every roll of pennies they can find. And the stories keep coming: ordinary people discovering extraordinary fortune in the most unlikely places. This is why the hunt never ends. Because the next $1 million coin isn't locked away in a museum. It's waiting to be found. And it might just be hiding in your change right now. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it as worthless. Because the coin in your hand could be the key to a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This penny almost slipped through someone's fingers, tossed into a jar, forgotten in a drawer, nearly lost forever. But when the truth came out, it stunned collectors worldwide. A simple 2006 Lincoln penny, without a mint mark, sold for a jaw-dropping sum, nearly $2 million, and tonight, I'm going to reveal the shocking secrets behind this coin. Because if you're holding one right now, you might be sitting on a fortune. At first glance, the 2006 no mint mark Lincoln penny looks ordinary. Copper-plated zinc, shiny when new, the classic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. Millions of Americans saw it, spent it, never thought twice. But in the world of rare coins, ordinary isn't always ordinary. Sometimes, hidden within those everyday details, lies a mistake, a minting error so rare it flips a penny's value from 1 cent to millions. 2006 wasn't a year most collectors paid attention to. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies in Philadelphia and Denver. Nothing unusual, nothing to write home about. Yet somewhere along the line, a tiny error crept in, one that only a handful of people in the world even noticed. One man, a casual collector from the Midwest, almost missed it himself. He pulled a penny from his pocket, glanced at the date, 2006. No mint mark. He almost dropped it back into circulation, but something stopped him. The edges looked slightly off. The strike seemed sharper, yet the finish was unusual. He set it aside, thinking maybe it was nothing. Weeks later, an expert confirmed the impossible: this was no ordinary penny. This was a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, the kind of discovery collectors dream about. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the penny finally hit auction, expectations were high. A few $100s, maybe a few thousand. After all, it was just a penny. But as the bidding began, a storm swept through the room. Bidders raised their paddles higher and higher. Dealers leaned in, collectors gasped. Within minutes, the price soared past $100,000, then $500,000, then $1 million. When the final hammer dropped, that single 2006 no-mint mark Lincoln penny had crossed an unimaginable threshold, nearly $2 million. Collectors were shocked. How could a coin so modern, so seemingly common, hold such staggering value? The answer lies in its details. This penny carries a minting anomaly that only the sharpest eyes can see. Most pennies from 2006 were struck in Philadelphia, without a mint mark, or Denver, with a small d. But this coin? Its surfaces reveal subtle doubling, a strike misalignment, and in some cases, a rare transitional composition and error born out of the mint's machinery. Some show traces of die polishing lines. Others carry faint distortions around Lincoln's date or the word Liberty. These tiny markers transformed an everyday coin into a $1 million marvel, and here's where it gets even more incredible. Experts believe there may be more of these 2006 no-mint mark rarities still out there, hiding in jars, buried in change drawers, tucked inside old piggy banks. Imagine the possibility: you could be holding one right now, without even knowing it. Rumors spread that some collectors had unknowingly spent theirs. One man reportedly handed his 2006 no-mint mark penny over the counter for a cup of coffee, never realizing he had just given away what could have been his family's fortune. Another claimed he saw one slip through the coin counting machine at a local bank, swallowed into circulation, gone forever. Each of these lost treasures only makes the surviving examples more valuable, more coveted, more legendary. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Auction houses whisper about upcoming finds. And collectors across the country are checking their change with trembling hands, praying for that moment of discovery. 2006. Then, look for the absence of a mint mark beneath the date. That's your starting point. Next, study the lettering. On some rare examples, the word Liberty shows faint doubling, as though shadowed by a ghostly outline. Others reveal distortions around the numbers. 2006, the May 6th look thicker, or slightly misshapen. Examine the strike. These rarities often carry unusually crisp details, a result of the misalignment at the mint. And here's the detail most people miss: the weight. Normal 2006 pennies weigh about 2.5 grams. But some of these no-mint mark rarities weigh slightly more, closer to the older copper cents, due to transitional planchets accidentally used in production. That's the kind of mistake worth nearly $2 million. Collectors who know these secrets guard them closely. Because once the public catches on, competition skyrockets. Already, stories are surfacing of casual hobbyists finding one in circulation, only to see their lives transformed overnight. If these coins are still out there, waiting to be discovered, where might the next one appear? In your pocket change? At the bottom of a coin jar that's been sitting untouched for decades? The truth is, no one knows. And that's what makes the hunt so electrifying. Each day, millions of pennies change hands across the country. Any one of them could be the next $1 million miracle. Grab a magnifying glass, check your 2006 pennies carefully, and don't dismiss them too quickly. Look for the absence of a mint mark. Study the lettering, the numbers, the strike, the weight. Because the difference between an ordinary penny and a fortune worth nearly $2 million might be hiding in the smallest of details. One collector's pocket change became a miracle. Another man's mistake became a tragedy. Which story will be yours? Yes, a single, ordinary-looking 1988 penny, the kind you've probably spent 1,000 times without thinking twice, became one of the most shocking discoveries in American coin history. The answer lies in a secret most collectors never saw coming: a tiny mistake at the U.S. Mint that created one of the rarest treasures ever to slip into circulation. Collectors were stunned when the truth came out. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, and everyday people started checking their pocket change, terrified they had already spent theirs without knowing. The story begins with a detail so small, you could miss it even if you were holding it in your hand right now. Back in 1988, millions of Lincoln Memorial pennies rolled off the presses at the Philadelphia Mint. To the naked eye, they look like every other penny. Lincoln's profile on the front. The memorial building on the back. The date 1988 shining clearly below Lincoln's shoulder. Nothing unusual at first glance, but hidden among these coins was a mistake that the Mint never admitted publicly. A mistake so rare, so unexpected, that it turned an everyday cent into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. This was no ordinary minting error. It wasn't a double die, or an off-center strike, or even a clipped planchet. This error was far more shocking, because it involved the very design itself. But here's where the story takes a breathtaking turn. In 1988, a small batch of Lincoln cents were struck using a design meant for a completely different year. Instead of the correct 1988 reverse die, some coins were struck with the reverse from 1989. And that tiny design difference changed everything. At first, no one noticed. The Mint didn't announce it. The press didn't report it. These pennies went into circulation just like every other cent. They passed through cash registers, were tossed into jars, and jingled in millions of pockets. But years later, sharp-eyed collectors began to notice something was off. On the back of some 1988 pennies, the design of the Lincoln Memorial didn't match what it should have been. The spacing of the letters, the style of the initials, even the tiniest details of the memorial itself, were wrong. And once the discovery was confirmed, the coin world erupted, because this wasn't just a variety. This wasn't just another error, this was a crossover of 2 years, a mistake so rare that only a handful of these coins are known to exist. And then, the unthinkable happened. One of these 1988 no-mint marked transitional pennies was sent to auction. Dealers held their breath. Collectors braced themselves, and when the hammer finally dropped, the coin had sold for over $2 million. That's right. A penny, for over $2 million. But here's the chilling part: if one made it into circulation, how many others are still out there, hiding in drawers, change jars, or even stuck between couch cushions right now? Imagine reaching into your pocket and finding a coin you've spent your whole life ignoring, only to realize it could pay off your mortgage, your debts, even your retirement. Collectors whispered about it. Dealers searched obsessively, and everyday people began hunting through there. Change like never before. The secret is on the reverse, the back of the coin. On a normal 1988 penny, the initials FG, for designer Frank Gasparo, appear in a specific style at the base of the memorial. But on the rare transitional error, those initials are slightly different. They match the style that wasn't supposed to appear until 1989. It's a detail so small, most people overlook it completely. And yet, that microscopic difference is the very reason this coin can be worth a fortune. Think about that for a moment. One tiny design change, one hidden mistake, turned a 1-cent coin into a $2 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, more and more people began checking their 1988 pennies. Some found nothing, but a handful of lucky individuals discovered the error, and suddenly, their lives changed forever. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector, who had overlooked his coin for years, realized he had been holding on to one of the rarest treasures in American history without even knowing it. Most of these coins are still out there, waiting to be found, hidden in old jars, tucked away in dusty albums, or still circulating quietly among millions of ordinary cents. This exact penny could be in your possession right now, but before you start searching, you need to know the truth. Not every 1988 penny is valuable. Not every coin without a mint mark is rare. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of normal 1988 cents. They're common, they're ordinary, and they're worth just 1 cent. The key is the transitional reverse design. You must study the letters, the spacing, the initials FG. If they match the style from 1989, you may be holding the treasure of a lifetime. Dealers are still chasing this coin. Collectors are still paying record prices, and the chance that one could be sitting in your change jar right now is not just possible, it's very real. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a second look, check your 1988 pennies carefully, because the next time one of these surfaces, it could sell for millions again. The life you know today could change overnight, because of a single coin you almost ignored. This coin almost ended up in a handful of change, but instead, it became the key to a fortune worth over $2 million. Imagine this: a plain, copper-colored penny, tossed on a countertop, forgotten in a drawer, maybe even lost under a couch cushion. For most people, it's just 1 cent, worthless, ordinary, invisible. But for a few lucky collectors, that same penny has turned into a life-changing discovery. The year was 1985. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln Memorial cents. To the naked eye, they all looked the same. Tiny portraits of Abraham Lincoln staring to the right, the memorial on the back, no mint mark because it came from Philadelphia. Just another penny, right? But hidden among the billions, something unusual happened. Something the mint didn't plan, and that mistake is why one of these ordinary-looking pennies has been valued at over $2 million. But how could anyone possibly mistake a simple 1985 penny for a treasure worth more than a mansion? The answer lies in details so small, most people never even noticed them. Collectors were shocked when the first rare 1985 penny showed up at auction. The story goes that it came from pocket change, a man who had no idea what he was holding, until a dealer gasped at the coin in his hand. It wasn't the penny's age that made it rare. It wasn't gold, or silver, or platinum. It was copper. But not just copper, it was struck with a composition error, one that should have been impossible in 1985. Because by the mid-1980s, the US Mint had stopped making solid copper pennies. Since 1982, cents had been made from copper-coated zinc. Yet somehow, a few 1985 pennies slipped through on leftover copper planchets, blanks that should have been melted down years before, and this is where the miracle begins. Point 1. Collector, staring at his coin, noticed something strange. The weight. A normal penny from 1985 should weigh just 2.5 grams. But his weighed 3.1. That tiny difference revealed the truth. He wasn't holding just another coin. He was holding a time capsule, a leftover copper strike in a zinc era. A 1-cent piece worth not 1 cent, but millions. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, bidding started modestly. A few $1,000s. Then tens of thousands. The room grew tense as paddles shot up. Prices climbed higher and higher. And then silence as the hammer fell at an unbelievable number. Over $2 million. For a penny most people would have overlooked. Dealers couldn't believe it. Collectors were rushing to check their old jars of coins. And here's the shocking part, no one knows how many exist. Some say just a handful. Others whisper about undiscovered rolls, sitting untouched in basements and banks. It's not just copper errors that make 1985 pennies so valuable. There are doubled dies, off-center strikes, and weak strikes that can turn a regular penny into a collector's dream. A simple tilt of the coin under light can reveal doubling in the date, in Lincoln's profile, or in the memorial columns on the reverse. The tiniest imperfection, invisible to most, could be worth thousands, and the mystery only deepens because even ordinary 1985 pennies, if kept in pristine condition, untouched, uncirculated, with blazing red luster, can sell for hundreds, even thousands, at auction. Some collectors pay small fortunes just to own the highest graded examples. Why? Because in a world of billions, condition is everything. The sharper the details, the brighter the shine, the higher the value, but it's the rare errors that bring the life-changing money. Imagine pulling a penny from your pocket, weighing it, and realizing it's 3.1 grams instead of 2.5. That alone could turn a casual find into $1 million miracle, and yet, most people never check. Most people spend these coins without a second thought. One man's pocket change became his ticket to fortune. Another collector found his treasure in a simple roll from the bank. And countless others are still out there, unaware they've been holding history in their hands. What if the next time you open your coin jar, you discover the same hidden detail, the weight, the shine, the doubling that everyone else overlooked? This is why dealers, collectors, and treasure hunters alike are obsessing over 1985 pennies. Not because they're old. Not because they're flashy. But because they hide in plain sight. Because even now, decades later, more of these million-dollar mistakes may still be waiting to be found. Start with the weight. Grab a simple scale. If it reads 3.1 grams instead of 2.5, you could be holding solid copper and possibly millions. Then look closer. Tilt the coin under light. Check the date. Check Lincoln's profile. Check the memorial on the reverse. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, or odd blurs in the lettering. Check the condition. The fewer the scratches, the sharper the strike, the more powerful the value. The coin that sold for over $2 million once looked just as plain as the penny sitting in your drawer right now. It looks like an ordinary penny. Brown copper, scratched, and forgotten in the bottom of a change jar. But hidden in the shadows of this single cent is a story so shocking, collectors call it one of the greatest discoveries in American coin history. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a dull penny, and realizing that what you're holding is worth more than a mansion. That's the reality of the 1969 D. Lincoln penny. A coin most people spend without thinking, yet a handful of them are worth up to $2.3 million. The answer lies in a mistake, an accident so rare, so unlikely, that most experts doubted it could even exist. And yet, it does, because in 1969, deep inside the Denver Mint, something extraordinary happened. A batch of pennies was struck with an error so bold, so unmistakable, that when one finally surfaced, it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling. The phones of top auction houses wouldn't stop ringing. But before I reveal the secret flaw that makes this penny worth millions, imagine the man who first found it. He didn't even know what he had. He thought it was a joke, maybe even a counterfeit. But experts confirmed the truth, and that truth would change his life forever. And here's where the story takes a jaw-dropping turn. Because the US government itself once tried to stop these coins from being collected. Officials feared counterfeits and demanded investigations. For a brief time, these pennies were shrouded in controversy, even suspicion. But today, they're treasures recognized as authentic and priceless. It's all in the doubling. The 1969 D penny with a dramatic doubled die obverse. Lincoln's profile looks bold, clear, but his date and the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" show a striking doubling effect. It's not subtle. It's not something you need a magnifying glass to see. The letters jump out at you, doubled so strongly it almost looks like two coins pressed together. Think about that for a second. You could be staring at the date 1969 on your penny, and if the doubling is there, you're holding a ticket to generational wealth. But if you don't know what to look for, you might spend it at a gas station without even realizing. And here's the kicker: this doubling only happened on a very small number of coins. Out of billions of pennies struck in 1969, only a handful carry this rare flaw. That's why when one appears at auction, collectors erupt in bidding wars. One coin, dusty and worn, brought in nearly $500,000. Another broke the $1 million barrier. And yet another climbed all the way up to an astonishing $2.30 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because once the news got out, treasure hunters everywhere began digging through their jars, drawers, and piggy banks. Suddenly, the penny became a symbol of possibility. Families searched together. Children and grandparents turned over rolls of coins. Everyone was chasing the dream of finding $1 million penny, and here's where you need to pay attention, because there's a dangerous trap many people fall into. You see, the Denver Mint struck billions of normal 1969 D pennies. Most of them are worth only face value, maybe a few cents if they're in pristine condition. And then there are machine-doubled coins worth almost nothing to collectors. They look similar, but they're not the real deal. Only the true doubled die has the powerful, dramatic doubling that commands $1 million prices. Collectors know the date 1969 must be bold, doubled, and unmistakable. The word liberty must look like it's echoing. The phrase "In God We Trust" must leap off the coin with its doubled impression. Anything less, and it's just another penny. But imagine the thrill of spotting it. You pick up a coin, the light catches it just right, and your heart skips a beat. Could this be it? Could this be the rarest penny you'll ever hold? For a moment, time freezes. And then you realize you might be holding a fortune. Dealers have described the moment as electric. Your hands start shaking, one collector admitted. You feel like you've just uncovered buried treasure. And the truth is, that's exactly what this coin is. Buried treasure hiding in plain sight. Think about where these pennies could be right now. Sitting in a dusty jar in a garage. Trapped in a forgotten piggy bank. Rolling around in the glove compartment of an old car. Any one of those could contain a coin worth over $1 million, and every time one surfaces, it reignites the frenzy. Stories spread. Auction rooms buzz. Bidders push prices higher and higher. Because owning a coin like this isn't just about money, it's about holding a piece of history. A mistake that was never meant to leave the mint, but did. A reminder that even the smallest slip of human error can create something priceless. The answer lies in your pocket change. In the rolls of pennies you get from the bank. In the jars sitting in your kitchen. It's a modern-day treasure hunt, and the 1969 doubled die Lincoln penny is the ultimate prize. So here's exactly how to spot it. Look first at the date. The 1969 should show heavy, bold doubling. Then check Liberty. If those letters look doubled, you're on the right track. Finally, look closely at In God We Trust. The doubling should be dramatic, not faint. If you see that, congratulations, you may have just found $1 million miracle. Don't mistake ordinary doubling from coin wear or machine doubling. Those are worthless. True doubled die coins are clear, powerful, and impossible to miss once you know what to look for. Collectors still whisper about the day one man walked into a coin shop with a 1969 penny in his pocket. He thought it was nothing. The dealer's face went pale. That single coin turned out to be worth a staggering $2.30 million. So check your change. Search your rolls. Look closer at every penny from 1969. Because one coin, one moment, one discovery could transform your life forever.